Welcome to PlanStrongerTV. I'm your host, David Holland. On today's program, I'll be joined by Daytona Beach, Florida attorney Paul Rice to discuss what you need to do if you or your spouse wants to get divorced. I'll also give you the inside scoop on what you need to do if you win the lottery or receive a lot of money. How can you not stick around for that? Ready? Let's roll. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. What do you do if you have been served in a divorce? Or what if you need to get divorced and you're the one that needs to serve somebody else? I'm very pleased to bring Paul Rice to the program, a local divorce attorney, to talk to you about this very important subject. Paul, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dave. It's great to be here.
All right, very good to have you. So you made the long drive all the way over here to our studios in Daytona Beach because, of course, you're a native.
A native resident of Daytona Beach, Florida. Proud of it.
Excellent. So Rice Law, you've had Rice Law for how many years now? Is it a couple decades?
33 years.
Wow. All right. Very good. Paul and I know each other and have had mutual clients together. And I know that you've specialized in your practice, especially with the work you do day to day, in working with divorce. You're board certified in divorce.
I am board certified in divorce and family law. I've been doing it, as I just said, for 33 years.
Wow.
I'm also the chairman of the Volusia County Bar Association's family law section. Okay. So it's what I do.
All right, excellent.
And I enjoy it.
That as well you should, because you have a good reputation, and this is, when you do something every day, you hopefully enjoy it and you're good at it. So for our viewers, your focus is, of course, on Florida, and divorce is a state-specific legal process?
It is. Divorce laws aren't federal laws, that is, laws that apply to every state. Each state, the 50 states, passes their own divorce laws. So, you know, you have to go under Florida law if you're in Florida, or Alaska law if you're in Alaska. All
right, very good. And for our viewers, and I think it's helpful to give a little kind of a framework here, being a divorce attorney, what's your day like? What's a work week look like?
Yeah, okay. So it's a mix of things. More and more over time, I find that the practice of law is done more at the desk than it was getting to the courthouse. Because since I've been practicing for 33 years, they've come up with a lot more alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Mediation, that is, they encourage settlement a lot more now than they used to.
Less
but at any
combative.
rate, I get to the office usually. Oftentimes, let's say a typical week, I may have a couple mediation conferences, which are settlement conferences. Often a couple court appearances, like this week I had depositions for half of a day. I had a court appearance in DeLand for half a day on a contested attorney's fee hearing. Sprinkle in a lot of client appointments. And so usually most of my office appointments are new client appointments, and then typically my existing clients make phone appointments. So that's why I sit at my desk a lot with my hands-free headset and talk.
I'm glad you made some time for a TV appearance, because we want to get the benefit of your expertise. And you gave a couple of examples in the work you're doing with the interactions that I would love to talk with you about. And one of them is, if somebody has been served, that's the term, I guess.
Served,
so they are going about their business, they think everything is wonderful in their marriage, and they get, like on the TV shows, they get blindsided, and they're being asked to go, or the marriage is over, at least from the other person's perspective. How do they get served? What's that process like? And then what do they do? What should be their first response?
Okay, so typically, usually they don't just get served, although sometimes that does happen. It's a circumstance. So if you all of a sudden get served with the divorce papers, then yes, you've got to go down to make an appointment. Well, typically what I tell people to do is educate yourself first. Okay, so if you weren't expecting this, and your spouse has filed for divorce, and the sheriff has served you with the papers, first of all, you have 20 days to file a responsive
You don't have to do
pleading.
it that day.
No, no, you don't. So the first thing you do before you even go see a lawyer is educate yourself, go on the internet, research it, then maybe ask around, find a good divorce attorney, and make an appointment with that divorce attorney. You may want to make an appointment with a few divorce attorneys to see who you connect with. It's very important that you have confidence in your professional. So anyway, so you do need to make an appointment, get with an attorney, and if you've been served, that means you've got to hire the attorney and file your answer in what's called a counter petition for dissolution of marriage.
Okay. All right. So you have to respond legally and formally. Now, what if you're the one who wants out of the marriage and you decide that you want to take action? I know that there's multiple ways to go about that. In your experience, what's resulted in the best outcome for somebody?
Okay, so I tell all my clients when they come in and they're the one who's going to be initiating the action, I said, let's take the high road, not the low road. You know, let's set the tone for the litigation. You know, and so my point is, so if a client comes in, they've decided they're going to get a divorce, typically I like to say, well, hold on, before you say anything to your spouse, let's get all the documents you can. Make copies of important documents, you know, make sure you have all your ducks in a row. And we file the divorce, and I suggest them, let me send a cover letter with the divorce papers to your spouse and give them the opportunity to hire a lawyer as opposed to just having the sheriff just show up at work or home and serve them with the papers. So start off and set the tone in a positive manner, if you can, because it may save money in the long run.
Yeah, well, you're giving the other person a chance to respond in a way where it doesn't have to go straight to sabers.
No,
right?
it doesn't.
Yeah,
Right. It doesn't have to be ugly, you know? So whatever we can do to prevent it from getting ugly, because all that does is cost them more money and chances are not necessarily get any better result.
And it's very often you see that divorces can become difficult. They can become adversarial.
Sure.
And you mentioned before about the importance of getting documents. I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that is that maybe because these documents might disappear later?
Documents do disappear, exactly. But I don't want them to disappear because my client made them disappear. So I always say, you know, get tax returns, get personal financial statements, bank statements, IRAs, retirement account statements, but just make copies of them and return them to where they belong. Don't just scoop up all the originals and take them to my office. I don't accept originals anymore.
Good for you.
I want copies. What we found through the years is you make copies, you return them to them, and then several years later they go, we lost your office lost the document. So you know what? No,
originals.
You're not bringing us any originals.
Now, we don't need to
copies.
wipe our fingerprints off of them, do we?
Well, it depends. No.
Nothing that
Nowadays,
nefarious.
we prefer if you scan them and email them to us,
Yeah.
right? You know.
I guess one of the other key things as viewers are watching this, Paul, you know, our society's changed a lot. There's been a lot
Yes.
more cultural acceptance of divorce. But are there still differences you see in the practice of the law in divorce between men and women? Are there still some differences you see in terms of either how they approach divorce or maybe their respective positions going into the divorce?
You know, interestingly, the answer is yes. And of course, you always have to be careful on this topic because you want to come across as sexist. Okay.
But there are differences that should be recognized.
Oftentimes, men are a little more businesslike and women are a little more emotional. Okay, so you have to approach it differently that way. But one of the things we do see now more and more is that I have a lot of female clients that are the primary breadwinners. Well, the traditional divorce was the man was the primary breadwinner and the wife was the stay-at-home homemaker, those types of things. So there's really been a shift there. And you're seeing more and more two-income families.
Okay.
And so what we're finding is, believe it or not, most of the divorces, that'd be the majority, that is more than 50%, are initiated by the wives, by the females. Yeah. So they're empowered. They're no longer economic captives. They don't have to put up with us anymore.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So you've got some of those differences. there's probably differences that will come out maybe in some of the warning signs that the spouse may see that a divorce is coming too, that, you know, a spouse may act differently. What are some of the signs somebody should be aware of? And again, we don't necessarily want to alarm anybody, but do you see or hear things from your clients that tend to come up and repeat that are signs to say, hey, maybe you need to prepare yourself?
Well, I won't talk about all the salacious things that people discover, receiving text messages, discovering things on their spouse's iPad. We'll leave that to the viewer's imagination.
Okay.
But I get that all the time. Got it yesterday. But I won't go into that because we're public broadcasting.
Sure.
So keep it clean.
Keep it clean.
You know, for example, all of a sudden the spouse, your spouse wants to sell the house, like for no reason. You're always happy there and this, that, and the other, and he wants to list the house for sale. That's odd.
That is odd.
You know,
Out
as
of
a
the blue?
divorce lawyer, I know good well why he wants to do it.
Let's
Okay.
liquidate those assets for easy division.
Or let's say if the husband's the primary breadwinner and the wife is a stay-at-home mom and she's going to be the alimony recipient, that house that has a $7,500 a month mortgage is just to become another component of his alimony. So if he can sell the expensive house and get into a cheaper one, he's going to get his alimony down. Some lawyers told him to do that. So watch out if your spouse wants to make some move financially that absolutely makes no sense.
Out of character.
Out
You're
of
looking for
character.
out of character behavior, right?
Yeah, like we love this neighborhood, right? And then the obvious, of course, is all of a sudden there's an equity line that's been dormant for years and now it's got $100,000 that's been taken out on it, or there's money out of the account, or the spouse is moving money financially or investments. And those are obvious things, obviously. But you know, most spouses detect it, you know, and that's a good time when you do detect it to go consult with a lawyer. And when a client comes to my office, we maintain confidentiality. So it's not like the prospective clients can come to my office and we're going to send them a Christmas card at the end of the year.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that type of thing. We keep it quiet. You know, come pay with cash if you have to. This is no track
I'm
record
sure you've
of
had
it.
that happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, plenty of times, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Exactly, because they don't want any track, you know, any record of them being there. But so, anyways,
That's probably a sign of some control issues and other things going on in the relationship anyway.
You know, oftentimes, David, my experience is there's been trouble there's trouble in the marriage, whether it's one of the spouses isn't coming home as much, isn't spending as much time at home, and then you couple that with something that
the other
happens
stuff.
financially. Really, we get a lot of cases where, in the age of social media
was
and
gonna ask you about
electronic
that.
communications, where people, you know, all of a sudden they get this text that the husband inadvertently sent to them and meant to send it to his girlfriend that my client, the wife, didn't know about. iPads being left open.
Really?
The lady came in to me, and her husband went out to the store, and he left his iPad open, and there was 3 years of like a diary about how much he hated her.
Wow.
She's going out and she's going to Burger King to feed her fat, you know what. I mean, she's like, she was blown away. She had no idea that he was unhappy, and he had left it open. And so there was 3 years of just, I mean, it's really hurtful stuff. Why someone would write that down? Maybe that's an example.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Just come across that.
well, and the other part I thought you were going to get to, and it's easy to get, is the social media of this. Is that, you know, you see these divorces that are coming from, you know, from the interaction on the social media sites with the boyfriend from high school, right? I mean, there's reconnecting.
You know, why else? There's only, like, to me, 2 reasons to be on Facebook. One is the reason I have, and that is to see what my kids are doing. They're off in college. They post their pictures and everything. The other is because you're trolling and looking for a mate, in my opinion. You know?
All right.
Well, we get that all the time where people hook up with their old high school, you know, sweetheart. And they hook back up, and so it does happen a lot.
Well, you certainly, I think our viewers would understand your perspective is affected by what you're dealing with
Yeah, by
Facebook.
what I see. You're right.
Sure.
You're right. By
Well,
what I see.
so that brings me to another one, and it may not necessarily be the diary on the iPad, but if you do have suspicions what are some of the first moves? You talked about it earlier about making copies and being prepared. I guess the question is, what are there additional precautions people should take before something happens?
Well, I mean,
keep your head in the game.
Yeah, keep your head in the game. But sometimes you want to confirm your suspicions.
That's a great point.
So you suspect your spouse is having an affair, let's say. Well, you don't want to fly off and file a divorce if you were wrong in your suspicions. So you might get a private investigator, and that's pretty easy nowadays. Nowadays with transponders and tracking devices and GPS, you put a little GPS on a transponder on your spouse's car, and what's this address he's going to after work type of thing, But anyway, so confirm your suspicions. Don't just file a divorce because you suspect. And the other thing to do is maybe confront your spouse, but only after you've got your ducks in a row. When I say confront, I don't mean angrily confront. Ask your spouse, And I tell clients when they come to me, David, and they're thinking about getting a divorce, I explain to them that as a divorce lawyer, I'm their last resort, not their first resort. So try to, if you have children, try to get into counseling, those types of things.
I think people are reluctant and very anxious about what that process will be, and also how the spouse may react, either to being called out on the carpet, or if they are the one hearing that the other person wants a divorce. There's a lot of uncertainty there. The person that you're married to and that you are telling them you want a divorce, or you're saying, hey, I know you've been doing this, all of a sudden a new person may show up. Meaning their personality may change, or they may react in the way that somebody totally isn't expecting. So there's some precautions there to take as well.
So what I do say is, if you're going to have this conversation with your spouse, do it at dinner at Stonewood or Denny's, where you're in public and you're safe. Don't do it in the confines of your own home, or you may become a victim of domestic violence. So
serious.
So yeah. People can change. They can snap.
Yeah. Are you gonna eat those fries? And are you cheating on me? I mean, you need to be somewhere where you're safe.
You do, and we always recommend that with our clients.
How about the other personal issues with divorce? Public appearances. How people should feel going to church, and some of these other things that I think there's a societal expectation about how people should act.
I call it the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
Right. So one question we get when someone comes in, let's just think about divorces, does it matter if I file first or not? Okay. Some people, if they're have strong religious values, they don't want to be the one to start the divorce. Okay. So they're going to make their spouse file the divorce first. So that's the societal. They may have a tight community at their church, but I try to explain to my clients. Of course, they've got to do what they've got to do from a personal religious standpoint.
Sure, absolutely.
But does it matter who files first? Absolutely not. Okay, the judges don't read anything into it, because chances are the spouse is filing for divorce has been the victim of domestic violence for 10 years. So we're going to fault that spouse for trying to get out of a bad marriage, or the spouse is filing first, has discovered that their spouse is cheating on them. Are we going to hold that against that spouse? No. So judges do not read, and I know the judges very well. I've been doing this 33 years. They do not read anything into. They don't go, well, ma'am, you're the one who wanted this divorce.
Right.
They don't do that.
It's not television. So this is, but it's not television divorce, right?
Sure. And it's Florida's a no-fault divorce state, so we don't care about the dirty laundry.
Right.
But at any rate, the only difference it makes as to the filing first, well, maybe two reasons, would be if you file first, and that means if you ever go to trial, which we've discussed, maybe 1% of all cases go to trial, you get to go first in your trial.
Okay.
And you know what? That's a default position. The judge you all filed first once you present your case first.
Yeah, but a lot of people like to be the ones to come back after the second half.
Sometimes I prefer to go second, so I know what the other side's going to throw at us. All
right.
Now the other reason was, so I had a lady come in recently, and they owned homes in other states. They had a home here and a home in another state. We won't say what the state is. And they spent about 50% of the time in each state. So in that situation, there's going to be a challenge over jurisdiction. She knew her husband wanted to litigate in the other state. So we wanted to file first to perfect jurisdiction. So that would be an example why you'd want to file first.
There's a lot to it.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah, well, we're very helpful.
Complicated area. So, you know, if people are looking for an attorney, find someone who specializes in divorce and family law as opposed to someone who handles a general range of areas.
Excellent. Good stuff, Paul. Very glad to have you with us, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Rice, thanks for spending some time with us and dialing it in for us.
Thanks for having me, David.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, it's time for a new segment of the program called The Scoop. This is where I give you the inside scoop on a financial topic. What do you do if you win the lottery or receive a large inheritance? When we watch the jackpot swell into the hundreds of millions of dollars, it's hard not to think about what it would be like to win the lottery. Here are my 5 things to do if you experience a large influx of cash, whether that comes from an inheritance, the lottery, a lawsuit, the sale of a business, real estate sale, or even a divorce. Number 1, ready? Don't talk about it. I know this is the hardest one on the list. You'll need to keep quiet while you put your financial, legal, and tax plans in place. Keep the circle small of those who know your situation and swear them to secrecy. Number 2, don't do anything. Give yourself a couple weeks just to let the new reality soak in. Number 3, get professional advice. I know you were expecting this one, right? However, you don't need to run other cars off the road getting down to the attorney or CPA's office when you first hear you're going to get a bunch of money. In most situations, you'll have time to make informed decisions, figure out what you need to do. You'll want advice from at least 3 different types of professionals: a financial planner, a CPA, and an attorney. And keep in mind that a very large amount of money might require planning beyond the skills of your current advisors. For example, if one of my clients won $350 million in the lottery, I know I'd need some help. Again, you don't need to rush. Give yourself time to interview different professionals. Also, don't go it alone. Take a friend or family member with you to all of your meetings. Number 4, decide what you want to accomplish with the money. If you've received enough money to quit work, is that really what you want? Maybe you do decide to quit work, but to do something else instead of nothing. Before you finalize what you'll do with your money, you'll want to think carefully about what you'll be doing the rest of your life. Number 5, take 10% of your money and spend it as fast as you can. Be lavish, be extravagant, be wasteful. What? Okay, before you've concluded that I've lost my mind, there is a method to my madness. One of the biggest challenges people face when they receive a lot of money all at once is that they simply aren't prepared. I'm not saying that being unprepared means you're dumb. It just means that you don't have the experience and skills to handle a big influx of money. This is why we often hear about lottery winners going broke within 5 years. Here's an example. Let's say somebody wins the lottery and gets $1 million after taxes. Let's say that the lottery winner heeds my advice so far and puts the money in their bank account until they figure out what they want to do. Then, unfortunately, they start nibbling away at the money. Money for dinner, money for a trip, money for a car, SUV, boat, jet ski, month in Europe, trip to Vegas, ski vacation, gifts for family and friends, so on and so forth. You get the idea. The problem is that $500 here, a couple thousand there, another $10,000 for that. These things all add up. When you see the $1 million sitting in your bank account, it seems like so much money that you don't really think you'll put a dent into it with these relatively small expenditures. The next thing you know, however, that $1 million has dwindled to $100,000. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen this happen. Unless you have an unusual supply of willpower and know yourself very well, you'd be better off following my 10% blow-it prescription so you can get the spending out of your system and get accustomed to having money. You're better off spending $100,000 and keeping $900,000 rather than unknowingly chipping away at the $1 million until there's not much less. Okay? Okay, that is my scoop. You can quote me on it, and I appreciate you being with me today. And remember, If you follow advice like this and think things through, you'll plan stronger.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.